If you wanted to go quickly, comfortably and, most importantly, for adequate money, you went, say, to the auto salon. You took a beautiful Ford built on the basis of a hill in the 40-foot body and enjoyed the full transfer of a 230-strong engine for 2.2 liters and acceleration to 100 of everything in 7 seconds. However, if you also wanted a spacious trunk, the ability to go to where there are orders for the road for cars of the Watts type, and you were too lazy to change the speed yourself on the manual transmission, and at the same time you wanted to feel like a king on the track, Grand Wide with a remarkable 5.9 engine was your golden option. This is a kind of 8 times the popularity of the hard group lists, which make up just the perfect company 8 in volume as much as 5.9 tenths of a liter. I must say that the Grand version is wide and 5.2 liters, starting from the year. In a childish way, few passenger years could go out of 9 seconds into the 90s, and the Grand timeline could barely 5 and at the same time 8. Note with a cast iron block, note again, with a cast iron block head, it was distinguished by phenomenal reliability for an insanely powerful motor, and these qualities were the first generation of the hail and fell in love with our committee. Well, version 5 and 9 was even angrier than the engine recoil increased to 245 horsepower. It seems to be just a penny by modern standards. However, what really amazed was the moment of 468 Newton meters. It is due to it that the real grand full suburban transport of the mission will be, and even then, with a rather archaic 4-speed automatic, it turned into a real beast to such an extent that the owners of new cars could be afraid at a traffic light. Do you believe the body? No, but according to the test results, this clock can exchange 97 km per hour from the platform in just 6.8 of a second, which, to put it mildly, is good even today. And then it was just a real bomb, sometimes raging with all 4 wheels. A quarter was scored from the spot. The car passed in just 15.2 tenths of a second. What? Again, at the level of the then 328, and oh, how fast. The main external distinguishing feature of the Model 5.9 was the characteristic gills on the bonnet. And the 249th solution, in addition to the full mode, also had a Mode 4 of dialogues 5 and 9. In this mode, tanks also turned completely impassable. And all this for a relatively modest $38,000. Supercar. If you think that this is the apogee of the economic possibilities of cars of the 90s with an increased need for it, it is not that you are deeply mistaken, to put it mildly, not in the subject, because it is just 1990 a year that such a characteristic car appeared that it is hard for me to say now. Who was cooler, he and dashing tandem fair, a group of neighbors of the family. I will say this in the aggregate of the saint, it is just an explosive mixture of adrenaline and pleasure. The name of this car, G-Typhoon, is only voiced by the fact that this roadside person could have picked up the ass of the operation itself at a traffic light. 348, and you will understand what kind of technique it was, the secret of which is 6 with a volume of 4.3 tenths of a liter from the Jimmy model. Actually, this car served as dollars for the Typhoon. So, the engine 4 and 3 received different pistons and exhaust, as well as falsified and thrown brains. This monster was donated by the Corvettes themselves. Well, and most importantly, the development of turbines of the Tbilisi brand can be considered, which made it possible to survive from behind 6 wild 280 forces, but, of course, most of all struck by the moment, 480 Friday meters, insane for the 92nd year. Do not forget also that with this technology the personality was not forgotten and reliability. The block and heads were made of cast iron, and the complete nature system was reorganized due to the coupling. Moreover, it is interesting that the rear rims had a layout. The real madness of this car was that on a 4-speed automatic, it could accelerate to 97 km per hour. And in 5.3 tenths of a second and cover a quarter mile from a standstill in just 14.1 tenths of a second. That is, it was quite possible to humiliate the 348 equator itself at the traffic light by 14.5 tenths of a second. It was possible to humiliate 5 and even, perhaps, the famous top of 500. That's what the Typhoon was doing by the supporters of those years. But what about one of the best Japanese sports personnel of those years? The maximum fund was really low at around 202 km per hour. With all this, the Typhoon boasts good vindictiveness, regulating steering wheels with leather upholstery, lace-width controls, leather upholstery of seats and door cards, air conditioning with all sorts of electrical appliances, bass, and even among the player just a crazy car with a funny cynic $30,000, even crazier rear drums brakes. And finally, the real king of red cars with a raised area past, without a doubt, is the first generation from the Degree office. The word degree alone is already shivering, and only when I find out that under the hood the sorcerer from cheerfully managed to shove at 12, and with a difficult swing, moreover, in 1998. If you simply wonder not just that this motor was also the fact that it was rocked at one time for the 124 fatal and 210 body of the 6-liter 48 valves, and which itself is a work of art, has gone through a number of metamorphoses. A different crankshaft was installed on it, the cylinders were pulled apart and individual pistons and rascals were used, while the volume increased by 2 crushing point-tenths. And the result instead. And we already know that he snuggled even better due to the reinforced system of a complete and simply not childishly, even a rather slow 5-speed automatic did not interfere with exchanging 100 in just 5.4 tenths of a second. This is at the level of ultra new then 5 years 39, but at the same time absolutely in any weather. It is interesting that the engine did the data. If you create it with a modern automaton with a half seconds, I just guarantee. So, unlike the previous 2 cars, we never gave up. After 200 km per hour and easily accelerate to 260 km per hour, which, by the way, were carefully limited. Just think about 260 km per hour on an equal footing with cars from 12, and even under them the routes were bad at the time. Literally sweeping away an ultra-business sedan on a car bath for the time it was simply the pinnacle of auto pleasure. Well, they will, of course. Killed on the spot 496,000 Mara. Well, in the comments, write what beauty the world is and in the roadside you think the best, and for which I also hasten to inform you, perhaps, good news. Along with the usual episodes, the author of the story I am planning to make shorter episodes about the most interesting cars, that is, I will try to make the concert more often, and in the comments also write applicants for these episodes. Well, if you liked this video, like it, subscribe to the channel and make these posts.